Well, of course.
Well, this is a reply to Angry Joe's rant on Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. You know, I can understand where Joe's coming from with this. You know, everybody probably, like Joe, was joking around saying the same thing when he reviewed MVC3, saying, oh, why don't you just make a Ultimate or Marvel? But, just joking around, right? And here, all of a sudden, it does happen. Now, he does bring up some good points. There are some characters that we might like, and there are some characters we may not like. But he also has the point of why in the world. I mean, I think everybody has this point. I mean, this point has been made even with Super Street Fighter. That was just somebody texting me. But he brought up a point with the fact that all these characters that Capcom is adding to this new game could easily be DLC packs, but along with the spectator mode and the balancing and all that. But here's a little thing about that, and I think Joe knows this, and I think everybody else that is with Joe on this agrees. Capcom is not like, say, the people that did Mortal Kombat. They're not that way. You see, basically, their situation is, when it comes to the fighting games, especially their, Street Fighter related games or whatever, they always want to make a spin-off. That's always the thing. That's the tradition. That's the tradition. I mean, look at Street Fighter itself. I mean, look at what Angry Video Game Nerd James Wolfe did at the beginning of 2010 last year. He did the Street Fighter 2010 video, right? The Street Fighter 2010 video. Well, he talked about how Street Fighter was the only series that spun off into its own series. Street Fighter 2, basically, spinning off into its own series. And that it wasn't probably until the 3DO or the Neo Geo or something that Street Fighter 3 was released. But Street Fighter 2 was spun off into different sequels. Hyper Fighting, Turbo, you name it, they had it. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, folks. That has been a tradition that Capcom has started back then and has kept going to this day. I mean, Joe said the same thing last year with Super Street Fighter 4. He said they could have easily made a downloadable pack out of that. And it's the same thing here. But again, you got to remember, it's all about tradition in Capcom's world when it comes to the fighting and Street Fighting relating games. I mean, yes, it would be easy to take the 12 new characters and and basically, let's say for maybe 800, maybe 1,200 points on Xbox, or $9, $10 or so on on the PlayStation Network. They could easily take them, like he said, 4 at a time and into individual packs. And then, like with the balancing, the spectator mode, probably make that a free download. But again, as simple and as great as that would sound, we're talking about a company that when it comes to their traditional fighting games, Street Fighter games, the crossover fighting games, there's always going to be the chance that instead of getting DLC packs, in which you should, you're always going to end up getting spin-off titles, individual spin-off games, if you will. And that's the truth. That's the overall truth there. It all depends on the company. Now, the reason I like certain fighting games, like say, well, it's not much of a fighting game, but it's more of the wrestling game or the SmackDown vs. Raw series, especially on Xbox and anybody that has an Xbox or even a PS2 could agree on this. The reason we like it a lot is because unlike a Capcom related fighting game or Street Fighter related fighting game, or in this case a Marvel vs. Capcom related fighting game, anytime there's new characters to be had, they don't go out and say, okay, let's create a spin-off title and you can have these extra characters. No. The people that create the system or create the game, THQ, say, you know what? Instead of people going out and buying an extra game, let's just have them download the characters. Let them have them download the arenas. I mean, I can't tell you since the end of last year into the beginning of this year, how many people were waiting on the DLC pack that would have the Nitro Arena. I can't tell you how many people were waiting for that, because that was something, being a nostalgic wrestling fan, you wanted to see. Now, I'm sure a lot of people had the question of what kind of Nitro Arena are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that was in the final years of Nitro? The big WCWs on the stage? Or are we going to get the one with the big Titantron or Jumbotron or whatever? Or are we going to get the one that we all know and love? And thankfully, we got the one we all know and love. You see what I'm saying, folks? It's basically all depends on company. And Joe, I know you know this as well. It all depends on who the company is. Yeah, again, I agree. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 really shouldn't be going on the shelves, but again, this is Capcom. And there are those out there, and I'll even put myself in this category, there are people out there like myself that will, if they have the money, spend an extra $40 for the game. And you know why? Because we would like to have it as part of our collection, but also due to the fact that, let's say anything happens to it, we have Marvel vs. Capcom to fall back on. Now, I know what you're thinking, though. I know you're saying to yourself, I know you, Joe, and anybody else watching this is probably saying to themselves, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they do DLC packs of these characters after this game comes out. You might be right. You might be right. They might DLC these characters for the MVC3 game. But you know what? There might be some other DLCs besides, let's say, Jill and that alien guy coming down the line for Ultimate. I mean, one of the characters I would like to see in there is Rogue. But we don't see Rogue, do we? What I'm saying, Joe, and anybody else that are watching this, we just can't, be angry at something that we have no control over. Because basically what we gotta realize is this is Capcom, and for Capcom, this is a tradition. And it's a tradition that started with Street Fighter, and it's a tradition that's probably going to keep going for years to come. Until possibly someone else who's in charge takes over and says, you know what? Fuck this. Screw this. This is a waste of time. It's a waste of money and finances. What we need to do is DLC these things. I'm pretty sure whoever is like next in line to take over is thinking that right now, probably saying to themselves, you know what? We need to fucking screw our heads on and realize that this is costing us more money to release another game than it would just DLCing the characters and whatever needs to be improved. So, but this is just my response to Joe's rant. I know it was probably in character or maybe a little out of character, but this is just a response to him and anybody else that feels the same way. Because believe me, there are those out there that are kind of 50-50. There are those that like the idea of an Ultimate game, and there are those like Joe that don't like it. So that's all I'm going to say on it. Comment down below if you like. Tell me what you guys think. Do you agree with Joe? Because in a way, because mostly I do, but I can understand. And do you understand? Do you agree with me? by understanding that this is Capcom we're talking about, not the people that did, not NeverQuest that did Mortal Kombat, and not THQ that did WWE. Do you agree with me that this is just a tradition that Capcom does? Let me know down below. Comment if you like, and I'll talk to y'all later.